Hi there, Jeremy O'Carroll, founder and director of the Reiki Centre here. And in this video, what I'd like to do is talk to you about, hang on, you know what? Something very curious is happening here. I am getting a message from your guides. And you know what your guides are telling me? They're telling me that you should donate all your money to my bank account. Amazing, right? Incredible. Now, if you're like most people and you hear me say that, guess what? You're going to think, this is rubbish. There's no way I'm going to donate all my money to this guy's bank account. Okay? And if you thought that, good on you. Of course, that's the logical thing to think. But if you're thinking that here, let me ask you a question. How come when you go to see a psychic or when your psychic friend gives you a message and says, oh, I'm tuning into your guides and they tell me this, why do you always believe them then? You see, here's an interesting thing. Let's imagine that your psychic friend actually is very good at what she does. She can actually connect to your guides. Okay, good. Well, who's to say that your guides actually give infallible information? I mean, when you die, does that suddenly make you wise, right? Or maybe the friends aren't people who have passed over. Maybe they are just non-physical entities. Well, are all non-physical entities blessed with infinite wisdom? I think not. So again, when anyone, even if they really are connecting to your guides, tells you something, don't just take everything on face value. What you really need to do is tune in to your intuition. Ask yourself, does what this person is saying resonate with me, with my gut, with my intuition? And only then take it on board. You see, it's interesting too, because with guides, there's no way to really disprove a guide, right? And so this is one of the things that people can pull over us. They can say, whoa, my guide says this. I'm tuning into your guide says that. Well, we can't disprove that, right? And so because of that, there's always just that little element of doubt. Maybe we don't really believe it, but then a part of us thinks, yeah, but what if, even though I don't really believe in it, it's true? What if they know something I don't know? And because we can't disprove it, it's easy for it to kind of prey on our mind and us to kind of open up and be ready to believe anything that's said. I'll give you an interesting example, however, that goes to prove that not only do we have issues because the guides mightn't be infallible, we can also have issues because the actual psychic, the medium, is a filter for the message. So the message doesn't come directly from the guide into your head. It goes via the medium. And as a result, it gets filtered and influenced on the way. I had a kind of an old, well, call her an ex-friend, really. And she often used to see people and she'd come up with these sort of psychic readings. She'd see this and that associated with them. And I never really paid it much attention. But I hired her for a period of time when I was doing some renovations on my home, and she was helping with that. And for a period of time, I actually even gave her my credit card because she was purchasing things for the house and the renovations. And I thought, you know what, it's just a bit easy if she has the credit card. Okay, so fast forward a while and she starts to take a few liberties with my card, and she starts to, buy herself this, that, and the other thing with the card. And you know what? I actually didn't get too mad with her about that, even though I wasn't particularly happy. But at the end of the job, I kind of went, okay, give me my credit card back now. We're done. And she wasn't very happy because she wanted to keep working. She wanted to keep doing more things. And so I'd known her for several years. And up to that point, she was always happy with everything to do with me. But once I said, you know what? That's enough. We're kind of done now with the jobs. And she'd actually completed the project. Then she got kind of mad. And then she actually had even my house key. And she didn't want to give me back my house key. And I went and asked for a house key. And then you know what she does? She now has a psychic vision of me. And she's like, I see. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was sort of like, I see demonic something or others behind you. And it made me kind of think, oh yeah, right, that's interesting. She's known me for years, but she's only now just seen this sort of demonic nature hovering around me after I've kind of like reclaimed my credit card, which has been, spending on coffees and cakes and all sorts of other things, and finished up her job. So she never felt that before. And this really is a good example. You think of people when, as the moment they don't like someone or whatever, these psychically inclined people, they have these visions. And of course, you can't really discredit it because, she saw it. And so she can tell her friends, she can do whatever she wants. And they're like, oh, wow, that's really amazing. All right. Because, again, you cannot disprove such a thing. So be warned, all messages, unless you're getting them directly. Now, that's a different story. If you're tuning into your guides and it's coming directly to you, that's one thing. If it's coming via a medium, that is a totally different thing. And you have to understand, as I said, that their emotional state, their knowledge, everything about them really is going to act as a filter for this information. Now, I'm not saying some psychics aren't very good at their job, but you have to understand that it's almost impossible for them to be a perfect channel without any of them, their own individual self coming through. Okay, so another thing to remember too is that, when you go to a psychic, what they say is actually of limited use in almost all occasions. Why is that? Because when you go to get a reading and it kind of works well, what they typically do is tell you something that on some level you already know, but maybe you're not acting on it. And so it's good advice in a sense, and it's advice that you really know, but you just haven't been doing it. And then when you see the psychic, what it does is it prompts you, it gives you kind of the courage to trust yourself more and your inner feeling, and then go and do that action, which you already knew in general you should be doing, but you just weren't doing it. So that's when psychics kind of work well. But I've seen quite a few psychics in my day, and I admit it's kind of fun. But they've really varied a lot in skill. So some of them I've gone to, and it's like what they say, the messages kind of go boom, and they hit you really hard. And it's like, wow, there's a ring of truth to it. You kind of feel the truth of what they're saying in your bones. But I've had other psychics who I've gone to, and I've kind of been almost a bit, I felt awkward. I felt embarrassed for them because what they were saying, it just didn't resonate at all. And it's like, oh God, you're sort of cringing because they're making a fool of themselves in a sense. And so you can get kind of both ends of the spectrum. But as I said, where it works well is when they tell you something in a sense that you know, but maybe don't consciously know, or sometimes even better, where they tell you something which is just totally outside the realm of conscious knowledge. I mean, it's really deeply buried. You only know it unconsciously, and then they bring that up to the surface, and that then becomes useful information that you can go and use. So be careful, because, I've met lots of people who have made, big decisions like relationship decisions. Do I leave my husband or not? Career decisions. Do I leave my job or not? Based on the word of a psychic, irregardless of whether what that psychic says resonates with them. So maybe they really love their partner, but the psychic says, oh, you know what? That partner, he's bad for you. And like, oh, okay, I better leave him. Or, you really love your job, but, oh, no, that job is not good for you. So then you leave your job. Or it could be vice versa. But again, the ultimate authority has to be you. And when you hear these words from the psychic, you have to feel it in your bones, in your gut, and go, you know what? Does it resonate? If yes, great, act on it. If no, doesn't matter how compelling a psychic they seem to be, ignore their advice. Now, with Reiki, I want you to just remember that Reiki and psychic readings are really two separate things. A lot of the time when you go see a Reiki therapist, they kind of bundle sort of, two for the price of one in a sense, and they give you a little bit of a psychic reading. Now, I'm not going to say this is necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, it might seem as an upgrade to a client. But if you're a healer, remember that you need to give the client the choice. So don't just kind of splurt out some sort of psychic reading at the end of a session. What you have to do is you have to tell them, you say, you know what, and I recommend doing this at the start of a session, say, look, when I give Reiki, often I get messages. Some clients like me to share these messages. Some really don't want to hear them. Both is totally fine. The psychic readings don't really have anything to do with Reiki. But as I say, some people like to hear them, some people don't. Just tell me whatever you'd prefer, and I'll go along with that. And so some of them, probably about half will be really happy to get them, and half will like, you know what, I really don't want to hear that sort of message. Maybe less than half will say that, but there'll be a percentage of them who don't want to hear it, and they'll get upset if you tell them. So just remember to say that. Okay, so upshot of all this then is treat psychics with caution. I'm not saying they're bad. They can do some great things. Sometimes they can really help you out in a tricky situation. They can give you that knowledge. They can take it from the unconscious part of your mind to the conscious part and help you really find what's true to you. But you always, always, always must trust your intuition. Okay, that's it for this video. Remember, if you haven't already subscribed, do so. And I will look forward to seeing you on my next video.